Something I was thinking about recently is how can we improve education? And what are some things we get wrong about education that we think we're getting right? Now, being a classroom teacher for 14 years, I've seen a lot of changes even in those 14 years. But I remember the classroom when I was a student, and I now see the classroom and I now see the educational experience a little differently from the outside as a parent. In this video, what I want to talk about is 3 myths in education that I think we get wrong. Now, feel free to disagree with me on any or all of these points. You can just comment down below and let me have it. I want to bring up this conversation because the one thing I am passionate about is improving education, specifically math education, but also education on a whole. So let's talk about some things that I think we get wrong. And if I miss anything, let me know as well. So let's talk about some things that I think we get wrong in education. The absolute first thing is standardization. Now, standardization has been around for a very long time. Even when I was a student, I was taking standardized tests. And actually, I don't really have a problem with standardization or standardized testing on its face value. The problem that I've seen in education has how standardization has really taken over the whole educational process. When I first became a teacher, my students were barely taking standardized tests. When I was a senior, I remember taking the ACT and SAT, and that was about it. Within this last couple of years as being a teacher, every single one of my students was constantly taking multiple standardized tests at the beginning, at the middle, at the end of the year, each and every course. It feels like all they're doing is testing. One of the jokes I always came around is April and May is just called testing seasons because students are just constantly in tests. And that's taking away not only instructional time, but it's also adding on a very complex layer of stress, anxiety, and preparation for these standardized tests that I believe are really doing little to improve the education of our students, teachers, and society. Because these standardized tests is used to compare one student from the next, we compare our teachers, and then we compare our curriculum of how well we are preparing our students for the next level. But the reality for anybody that has any experience with humans is that we do not learn and digest information the same. While standardization from the big picture does give us some great information to be able to measure and understand and use, I feel it's kind of taken over education where it's become like this holy grail where everything that feels the most important is based on this standardization. In reality, there's no test or grade that's going to measure a student's ability of how successful they are going to be or how much really the information that they're able to achieve. We spend way too much time focusing on doing well on these tests, so therefore we can go into the next course and do well on that course and then go into the next university and to be able to get this grade. And everything is focused on test, grade. And a lot of the true learning that we need and the true learning that we actually are trying to seek out is not happening. In reality, we know that in some content, students can be able to finish it much quicker. But in reality, we have the standardized idea that all students must finish the curriculum at a given time. We have the standardized approach with grade levels where all students must finish this curriculum at a certain given amount of time. With today's technology, it's just not reasonable for students to be able to stay learning information for 2 semesters when it might take them only 1 semester. There's also a content area where students just need more time to digest the information. Yet we force the learning to happen when the students are not prepared. What happens is those misunderstandings just keep on compounding and compounding themselves until eventually the student decides that they just cannot understand that material or just drop and disengage. I'm definitely not a proponent of getting rid of standardization, but I definitely think it's time for standardization to take a seat back and to let teachers and students really guide the learning and instruction that's going on inside of the classroom. Now, the next myth that I have is kind of tied to that, because if we're going to let teachers and students guide the instruction and learning, we got to make sure we have the absolute best teachers inside of the classroom. One of the hardest things when I stepped away from the classroom was this realization and this self-doubt that I was giving up on my students. I feel that every student deserves a high quality teacher inside of the classroom. And I knew that I was a good teacher. I knew that I could reach students and help them learn math. Now, obviously there's many reasons why I stepped away from the classroom, as well as many other great other teachers before and as well as after me. But it scares me a little bit when I was thinking about education is we have to have high quality teachers teaching our students. But then I got to thinking, one of the myths that we still kind of hold on to is that all of our high quality teachers have to come from a college educational program in education, which now I think is a little bit misguided. Not so much because of those programs. I think they had the time and a place, but I think as far as the evolution of the educational process, the teacher role has changed. We are no longer a bearer of information. Yes, we still need teachers that are empathetic and know how to deal with educational issues, but I don't think that always has to be constrained just to an educational program inside of of a university. I can only say from my personal experience that even though I really enjoyed the educational courses I took at my university, there's very little that actually prepared me for my experiences inside of the classroom. And I also know a lot of great teachers that have educational degrees, masters, even national board certified, that really still might struggle to meet the needs of their students. Theory is great, but real life and application is more important. And there are a lot of people out there that would be absolutely amazing teachers, would connect with their students, would be able to motivate the students, would be able to guide the students through the learning process if they were just maybe encouraged to become an educator. A lot of people have those dreams. A lot of people, when I tell them I'm a teacher, they say, man, I wish I would have become a teacher, or I wish I could go back and become a teacher. And not all of them would be great fits, but a lot of them would be really good. And I think we do education a disservice if we hold the bottleneck to you have to have this degree to be a good educator, or to be given the opportunity to show what you can do. And the last myth, which again also kind of piggybacks off of the first math of standardization, that we need more advanced opportunities in our educational curriculum. And I'm not against advanced opportunities in our educational curriculum by any means, but what I'm against is this myth that students have to take 5 AP classes to be anything in real life. Yes, we need engineers. Yes, we need people that are academically gifted in their field. But I don't think the threshold for a society needs to be all students have to have such a high academic level of success. And again, this kind of comes into this pigeonhole of you have to reach a certain pinnacle by this certain age or by this certain grade level before you can advance to the next level. Learning is a lifelong process, and we need to keep on continuing students to be engaged and want to be able to learn for the sake of learning, not to be able to just get a grade so therefore they can check it off a box and move it into the next level. From what I've seen in the 14 years that I've been a teacher, that students have gotten a lot smarter on paper, but I've seen very, very little of that understanding actually being displayed, where this has created this race to the top where students only feel that they can have a meaningful impact or be somebody unless they are one of the top 2% or they have an A or a B in a class. But the reality is we need well-rounded students. And yes, success does not have to be having all A's in all of your classes, because I've seen way too many students that have had success in their classes but have been totally disengaged from the content, or can recall very little in the next year for the content that they need to have. And I think this is a shame, because what's the point of earning an A in a class where you're completely disengaged from the information? Learning should be exciting. You should want to be able to learn more. And if the process of you learning and earning a good grade in a class makes you hate that course or never want to do anything more with it, then what was the point of learning it after all? Just to get a grade, to check it off the box, to move on to the next level? That's not good for you or the learning experience. So while I'm not against students taking multiple advanced courses, I think that's actually amazing. And, going back to the standardized process, I think if a student can take multiple classes, if a student is focused in an area, like, go as far as you can go as fast and as far as you can possibly go. But I don't think we need to hold that as the pinnacle of success for each and every student. We all have our unique needs, our unique desires, our unique interests for learning. And I think the more that we can facilitate that, the better off we're going to be able to provide the opportunities when students leave the educational framework to be successful. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 3 myths in education that I came up with. If I missed anything, let me know down in the comments down below. And if you absolutely hated everything that I said, well, let me have it. I'm waiting for it. I have many other videos just like this one, talking about education, especially math education, in the playlist down below. Go ahead and check it out, or watch the next video I have for you here.